I was a very, very fearful child. I was scared of dogs. I was scared of fire, of chicken soup for a time. And I was very scared of sleepovers. I rarely could bring myself to make it through a whole sleepover without needing a parent to pick me up. And when I did, I was miserable the whole time. So when my Beth Am class was going on an overnight to LA, my mom called the rabbi to see what could be done. Could I be placed with a friend? Could I change my homestay away from the one with the dog? And because Beth Am is Beth Am, I was taken care of. And I had a great trip, although I did get sick from cancer's matzo ball chicken soup. Some fears are real. I thought a lot about my fear of overnights last year when we heard on the news that thousands of children have been separated from their parents and caregivers at the border. I could barely handle one night at a friend's house. How could we be doing this to these children? The news stories were horrendous, and I could have felt helpless to make a difference. But as I do all the time, I turned to Beth Am. Immediately there were ways to help. There was a congregation in Texas helping families and unaccompanied minors on the border, and Beth Am congregants donated 20 boxes of supplies to help them. Beth Am congregants participated in a local vigil, and Rabbi Sarah used Jewish teachings about separation to inspire the crowd. Earlier this year, a delegation of lawyers from Beth Am went to the border to help. And last week, 50 Beth Am members wrote their members of Congress about the conditions at the border. And every day until Tisha B'Av, Beth Am members are joining in a vigil in Palo Alto to call for compassion at the border. There is so much more to be done, but I have a community of people with whom to act, and in that, there is hope. And I know I'm not the only one who feels the need for this kind of community that congregates to address injustice. Earlier this year, another community at Beth Am, a small group of young adults, gathered to start thinking about what it takes to bring our young adult program to the next level. Inspired both by the success of our growing young adult program and by the importance of reaching out to more people, we, the Young Adult Task Force, set about interviewing unaffiliated Jewish young adults that we knew. They weren't hard to find. Most Jewish young adults, most of my peers, are not connected to a synagogue. And in our particular region, most are not connected to an organized Jewish community at all. My friends and my peers care a lot about their Judaism. They celebrate holidays together, and they work with their partners to build a Jewish home. But due to many factors, many of them aren't yet finding their way to our wonderful community here. So we asked them, what would you like from a Jewish community, if anything? A few answers. I want access to Jewish life cycle services that I could pay for as I need them. I want new avenues of Jewish engagement that don't feel forced or like there's an agenda. I'd maybe like a book club, but specifically designed for young people, not my mom's book club. And two of my favorites. I want to be part of something bigger. And the news is depressing and paralyzing. It's not motivating me towards social change. Could spiritual leadership help that? Certainly. You and I know that Beth Am spiritual leadership does change the sense of despair. Rather than feel depressed and unmotivated by the enormity of injustice in the world, we at Beth Am, as it says in our congregational Tzedek vision, congregate to make meaningful change in the world. I always hold fast to a Pirkei Avot teaching, which says, it is not upon you to finish the task, but neither are you free to desist from it. But in order to let this teaching truly inspire, you have to know that you aren't alone when you're trying to finish the task. And others will join you together to make progress. One doesn't have to look far at Beth Am to be inspired by the way we make meaningful change together. Look to the left, and you might see a congregant who makes chicken soup to be delivered to people who can't enjoy community outside of their homes. To your right, a family that regularly volunteers at the Life Moves Family Shelter, bringing breakfast monthly with a team of Beth Am volunteers. At the Bima, a rabbi that marches for racial justice, or another that organizes to support our Muslim neighbors. A youth group that collects your food donations at High Holy Days every year to give to those who can't afford to get the food they need. Your fellow members register voters, march against gun violence, support a Ukrainian synagogue, and more. Hundreds of members participate in our Equal Start initiative, providing an array of services and leading as advocates for equal educational opportunities for young children. Our congregation is a leader in a new Bay Area organizing effort, building power through relationships among communities so we can tackle problems together. When Catholic Charities asked if they could partner with Beth Am to get needed supplies to help a refugee family of 8 from Afghanistan settle here, a couple of congregants organized a response, and immediately hundreds of congregants donated funds, furniture, and time to make sure the family had all they needed to settle here in the United States. Dozens of congregants trained together to respond to ICE raids, supporting our neighbors who live in fear. Nearly every week, we learn about a way that a bar or a bat mitzvah has chosen to better the world. And every week, dozens of congregants give to the monthly tzedakah box. When I am fearful about the state of the world, when I feel the hurt is too big for me to fight alone, I turn to my congregation and feel hope, because I have hundreds of partners in bringing my Jewish values to life. As the several dozen young adults who are here today can affirm, there is a lot to gain from being part of a larger Jewish community. We've made friendships, we've carried on traditions, we've studied, we've given each other comfort and inspiration, we've celebrated life cycle events together. Already we, the growing young adult Beth Am community, have found ways to follow the traditions set forth for us by Beth Am to do good in the world. We've had over 60 young adults show up for a volunteer fair, and tomorrow morning at a young adult member's house, we are joining together for the very first Social Justice Shabbat to study our values and work together to put them into action. This week's Torah portion, which, like a good millennial, I learned about in a podcast, speaks about the future of the Israelite people when they enter Canaan. How will land be passed down? Who will lead? There's a particular story about how rules of inheritance had to be adjusted to meet the new needs of the people of that community. Over the next few years, we will be having many similar conversations about the future of Beth Am. How will we bring all that we love about our congregation to a new generation? What new programs and systems will we create to adjust to the new needs of our community? Several young adults are working with our rabbis on piloting new programs for our peers, and Rabbi John has been studying new models for engaging young adults. One thing I know is that we will seek more opportunities to follow Beth Am's commitment to pursuing a more just world. This is a tradition that does not change with the generation. It is a tradition that inspires and lifts up our people from despair and allows us to make the world we are living in better for everyone. It is a tradition that will continue to draw folks to Beth Am as they look for ways to make meaning in a sometimes despairing world. Thanks to the model our values and community has set forth, the future is going to be bright, both for young Jewish adults, for Beth Am, and for the world that we continually look to make more just. Shabbat Shalom.